Mrs. Ruchira Gupta. She's a feminist campaigner, and she's a NYU visiting professor. And she also founded an anti-sex trafficking organization that's called Up Women Worldwide. So we are curious to listen to your experience and lessons learned from your experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Up Women Worldwide, which works in India among 20,000 girls and women who are trapped in prostitution. And we have been organizing for the last 15 years so that we can prevent the trafficking of the children of the prostituted women and create reintegration and rehabilitation opportunities for those who are victims and survivors of sex trafficking. At the same time, just like my co-panelist from Panama, we have been going after sex trafficking rings in India and put 66 traffickers in jail because these are the people who prey upon the vulnerabilities of these little girls who are poor, who are female. In India, they are low caste, and all of them are teenagers between the ages of 9 and 13. Typically, a trafficker goes into a village or a slum in India and either seduces, tricks, forces, or even tells the parents that he will put the daughter into prostitution, but at least she will have 2 meals and a bed. And to the horror of these little girls, they are suddenly taken away from their families of love and compassion into these communities where they are raped by 8 or 10 men every night. This morning you heard an American survivor, T, who spoke about the horrors of the sexual exploitation that she has faced in America. It's no different in India. For 5 or 6 years, these girls are used repeatedly, and finally, when they are of no commercial value, they are thrown out to die on the sidewalks, disease-ridden, maybe with 2 or 3 children. I call these girls the last girls. And today's topic is how can we combat trafficking in persons in the context of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And to achieve success in any of those goals, we need to combat sex trafficking. And to combat sex trafficking, we need to reach that 13-year-old in a brothel or that little girl in a slum or in a village who is completely impoverished or disenfranchised in India, or born to a black family in America or to a Native American family in Canada, a minority ethnicity in Latin America or Europe. She could be a refugee. And all these girls are marked by their vulnerability because there's enough of a demand for trafficked persons, especially for the purposes of sexual exploitation, prostitution as we call it, and traffickers know there's a profit, so they go around looking for such girls who are the poorest of the poor. So to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we have to create systems to reach that girl. And first aid and skimming the top of the bottom will not do. So we cannot simply say that we have to reach the lowest hanging fruit and therefore reach the second last girl or the third last girl, or even try for quick fix solutions saying that, okay, she's already in prostitution, so why don't we just mitigate her circumstances by giving her condoms? So at least she will not get AIDS. But her basic needs are food, clothing, shelter, education, and protection from the person raping her before she needs a condom. And so we have to now go backwards to see exactly what that last girl needs to make the Sustainable Development Goals succeed and actually be sustainable. There are 3 goals which are extremely important in this context. There is 5.2, which deals with violence against women, and prostitution, as all of you know and have heard today from so many people, is a form of violence against women. It is gender-based. The majority of those trafficked are girls and women, and the majority of those trafficked are trafficked for sexual exploitation. So we have to see how we can address the Sustainable Development Goal or the target of 5.2 in the context of sex trafficking. The other one, of course, is 8.7, and the third one is 16.2, which is also asking us as a target to collect data which is gender sensitive. How do we collect data about who is trafficked? And again, if we start looking at the data, we will see that the majority are women and girls, and also they are the most vulnerable. Very often there have been attempts, and many of you know it, that is it possible to collapse sex trafficking and prostitution into the larger idea or framework of forced labor? And we cannot do that because forced labor is very different from sexual exploitation. Sexual exploitation is not work. And the moment we accept sexual exploitation as work, we will dilute the labor struggles that we have achieved, the successes of the labor struggles that we have achieved in all these decades. And my moderator is from ILO, and he knows how hard it is to even hold on to the things that we want as part of labor movements, which is minimum wages, dignity, good working conditions, and old age pension. In prostitution, we cannot achieve any of those things. There is no such thing as minimum wages. In fact, you earn the most on the first day in the job, and then it steadily, the income goes down. There can be no such regulation for body penetration, so we might be able to legislate things around working conditions in other ways, but we cannot legislate away the body invasion that prostitution inherently has. The third thing that labor struggles aspire for is old age pension. Here, the old age pension is disease and death, but because of the repeated body invasion, we find that women end up with diseases. Some people use condoms, some don't. A girl cannot negotiate who her customer is. And of course, dignity. Labor struggles have been able to legislate that a man does not have to crawl into a mine anymore. And this little girl or this young woman standing in a red light district or a street corner, a dark street corner, has to negotiate the value of her body all the time. And so, therefore, we have to stick to the UN protocol to end trafficking in persons, especially women and children, in which it is very clearly stated that vulnerability must be addressed, the demand must be addressed, and by demand I mean both the customers who buy sex and the traffickers who buy and sell girls and recruit them, transport them, and transfer them. And we, of course, have to see how we can make sex trafficking, the combating of sex trafficking, an indicator in every single sustainable development goal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gupta, in particular.